Welcome back to Legally Speaking. I'm Melanie Van Orde, a paralegal here at Aitken Robertson, and joining me again today is our founder and criminal defense lawyer, Richard Aitken. So, Richard, today we are tackling a big emotional question that we actually hear a lot. If I win a case, can I sue my ex or the police for lying? And especially in cases where someone feels that the system was abused or used against them maliciously.
Well, Mel, it's an understandable reaction. People get upset if they've been falsely accused, if their former spouse or partner has lied to the police, or perhaps the police have done a poor job investigating. But the reality is, it's very, very difficult to sue either the police or the person who basically started the process of getting you charged. Very difficult.
Well, let's start by separating the two systems. Winning your criminal trial doesn't mean that you automatically will win your civil lawsuit, right?
I think probably, Mel, the big difference is the difference in the standard of proof. Remember, in criminal court, the Crown has to prosecute you on a level at beyond a reasonable doubt. So there has to be more than the Crown has to prosecute you to a level of beyond a reasonable doubt. Not quite certainty, but pretty close to it. So let's say it's 99.9%, something like that. On the other hand, in a civil court, if you're suing someone, it's on a balance of probabilities. That means 50% 0.1, give or take. So let's say, for an example, you were charged with sex assault and you were acquitted in criminal court because the Crown could not prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And you decide you're going to sue the person who charged you. You say your former spouse, and you went to a court in Ontario and litigate the matter, and you sued them, say, for $100,000 for malicious prosecution and starting this whole thing. You can expect someone coming back the other direction. They'll countersue you for battery or assault, probably for even more money. And remember, since it's a balance of probabilities, it's quite possible that even though you won in criminal court, they could be successful in showing that it was more likely that you assaulted them than not, and they might win in civil court. So you can be really careful what you do here. You have very unintended consequences.
So someone might actually lose in criminal court but still win in civil court?
Oh, let's take the most famous case of that, the O.J. Simpson, right? He won in criminal court, and yet when the family of his ex-wife sued him in civil court, he lost. And it's quite possible that can happen to anyone going down this road.
Now let's talk about suing the person who made the allegation. Maybe an ex, maybe a coworker, or even a neighbor. What should people know?
Well, you can sue, but again, it's very difficult to win. And even if you win, you have to decide, well, can you collect? I mean, if they're not working, there's nothing to sue for. And collecting can be a major problem sometimes. A malicious prosecution, one thing you might sue for, defamation or intentional infliction of emotional distress. But here's the key. You have to prove that the person knowingly lied, and it's very difficult to do. I've been practicing law for 41 years now. I used to do family law in my youth, and I once had the great success of, after my cross-examination of the non-custodial parent, she was charged with perjury. I was now actually able to show that she had lied. I was able to prove it. She was charged with perjury and convicted of perjury. However, that's extremely rare. Life doesn't usually unfold that way.
Then, okay, this brings us back to the burden of proof.
That's right. So even though you won in criminal court, it doesn't mean that all the witnesses lied in criminal court. It may be simply that the Crown was not able to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. If you sue them, as I said, be prepared for the counterclaim. You don't want to go down this road unless you've had some very good advice from an experienced civil litigator as to how this might work out for you, but might not work out for you very well at all.
So it's safe to say that this is not just a one-way street.
No, it's more like opening both sides of the battlefield. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? That's sort of what happens here. You sue something, you sue someone, somebody's going to come back in the other direction. You may not like it. Get good advice before you start anything.
But what about suing the police? We've had clients that say they arrested me without cause and I want to hold them accountable.
Well, the test for laying a charge is whether or not there's probable cause. It's not guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So probable cause, generally speaking, is simply there was a complaint. So unless the complaint was obviously nutty, the police are not going to try and determine if the complaint's credible. They receive the complaint, especially in the case of a domestic, they will charge. And it's very difficult to sue the police unless you're really able to show that they were incredibly biased or incredibly negligent, and that does not happen very often. You also have to consider the cost. If they sue the police, remember they have deep pockets, they have a union, they have the government behind them paying the legals. If you're suing, you're paying your own legals, so you can get very expensive. And if you lose, you can be paying most of the legals of the other side.
So by saying they just got it wrong isn't enough?
No, it's not nearly enough. And it's unfortunate. I mean, lots of people end up being charged for no basis because a particular person might be biased against them, a former neighbor or spouse or roommate or colleague at work, or even just a total stranger. And it can lead to very unhappy results. You're totally innocent. You've had to hire a lawyer. You had to go through this emotional stress. But if you carry on and try to get compensation for what you went through, chances are you're only going to make it worse for yourself. It's really unfair. I understand that, but that's the reality.
So even if someone has a very strong emotional drive to sue, should they?
Honestly, it depends on what they want. Lawsuits are time consuming and expensive. I suppose it gives them a chance to vent and tell their side of the story, but perhaps they might want to simply write it in their diary what happened, vent that way, tell it to themselves. It's probably a lot safer in most circumstances. I'm not saying it's never a good idea, but just really think about it before you endeavor on this particular process. It can have very unfortunate consequences to yourself.
And one of the consequences is if you lose, you might even be on the hook for the other side's legal fees.
That's right. And you start suing the police or someone like that, the legal fees add up very, very quickly.
So, Richard, what's your final advice to someone who has been acquitted and feels that they've been wronged?
It's easy for me to say, I understand that, but move on in your life. Try to forget it. If you try to retaliate, to get even if it's a natural response, lots of people would want to do that. I understand that. But you need to move on. Lots of other things in your life, I'm sure, very positive, and try to close this particular unhappy, unfortunate chapter.
Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us today. And thank you to everyone else for joining us on Legally Speaking. If you've been charged and you're wondering what your rights are, please contact us at Aitken Robertson. Thank you, Richard. See you next time. Thank you for tuning in to Legally Speaking, proudly brought to you by Aitken Robertson Criminal Defence. We represent clients facing criminal charges all over Ontario, providing you with legal support and dedicated advocacy. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more content, please like and subscribe to our channel. For more information, visit our website. We also offer free books on various types of criminal charges, which you can request on our website or by using the QR codes on your screen now. For legal assistance, call us today or visit our website to request a meeting with one of our experienced lawyers or licensed paralegals. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Legally Speaking.